Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. My name is Nick Hudson. This week we're going to be having an interview with theatre director Jonathan O'Boyle to discuss his production of the Southwark Playhouse's production of The Last 5 Years, that is opening at the Garrick Theatre on the 17th of September. We met at our second home, the South Bank Centre, to discuss his views on the show and theatre in general. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Jonathan O'Boyle and I'm the director of Last 5 Years.
Hello, Jonathan. I'm just slugging a tea. Sorry, welcome to Musical Talk. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. How have things been for you personally through this chaos? We always like to start with that.
All right, actually. It's been, obviously for everybody, it's been a challenge and quite traumatic, I think. I've been quite lucky that I got to do quite a few sort of online workshops and some teaching, and kept myself busy that way, and luckily, touch wood, things that were sort of cancelled moved, so they moved to next year, and hopefully they'll come back. And obviously Last 5 Years has been the show that has sort of kept me sane in the past year. It's sort
of 5 years, it seems like.
Exactly, yeah. So it came back, in that mini gap in October that we had, which is brilliant, and we got to film it for Broadway HD. So there's a beautiful film of it, and then obviously we get to do it again at the Garrick and make it even bigger and bolder, and hopefully get to a wider audience, which we can't wait, really.
An actor-musician version of The Last 5 Years.
Yes.
Not an easy score to give to someone to play and sing at the same time, unless your name is Billy Joel or something.
Yeah, exactly. No, we sort of set our bar quite high, actually, and Katie, the producer, and I, we sort of had this idea way back when we sort of first talked about the show that obviously, this is obviously stating the obvious, but music is integral to it, to sort of the fabric of The Last 5 Years. It's a brilliant, rich score, and the storytelling is excellent, but I think particularly the music is key. So for me, I'd seen a few versions of the show, and it always felt that if you tried to make it naturalistic, with song, the person leaves, the next person comes on, song, that person leaves, and try to make it linear and naturalistic. I didn't quite understand that, because that's, from what I feel, I think that he's written quite an abstract musical, which is non-linear. It jumps around. It's not naturalistic. It's a version of these people's
biographical for him as well, isn't it?
For him, yeah, absolutely. It's sort of from his personal experience. So I thought that it'd be really interesting to see what the music is in that. So to sort of cut a long story short, what I zoned in on and honed in on was the idea that these two people were telling their story from their viewpoint. So Kathy begins the show, she opens the letter, she reads it, and obviously is devastated by what's happened and how that marriage has deteriorated. So she has to work backwards from that point to understand how did I get here? What happened? What was the viewpoint? How did this story unfold? And Jamie's character is the opposite. He has to explain to the audience and to us why he did that. So that's sort of how we logged into the story, and with that, with music, and how music is integral to that, and how they sort of need music therapy, and they're locked in this room together, and they accompany each other, so almost like a counterpoint. Because I never quite understood why the actors would leave and not hear each other's viewpoint. So they sort of hear each other, they play, and they have themes, musical themes that run through, and they're able to communicate through music. So it sort of, for me, it enriches the story a little bit.
I've only ever seen one production, and it was at the Tabard, now the Chiswick Playhouse, near me, and soon you. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
They never really met until the Act 1 ending, I guess, when they
the midpoint.
When they get married. But other than that, they were completely apart. So it's interesting, your production, they are kind of in therapy. It's kind of a nice way of looking at it.
Well, and that sort of developed as we rehearsed, actually, that sort of idea that they're in this space together and they're using...
of social distancing.
The opposite of social distancing, yes. But it's sort of the perfect distance show, really, two people. So we sort of get away with it in that way. But, I think, for me, I could never quite work out why... Obviously, that's the historic versions of the show have been that the climactic point in the middle where they meet and they communicate and they look at each other and they're together is quite thrilling. But I think the way we do it, they get to observe each other. It's almost like they can remember the memory of each other's story from a different viewpoint, or they can be in their own journey and listening to what their journey is and how they're communicating in that moment. So there's various different ways that an audience can interpret it. Yes, we still get that moment in the middle where they lock eyes and they rather than waltz, which is in the script that they waltz, they actually play the piano together, four hands, and so that's our version of them having their wedding dance. Was Jason Ward Brown aware of that idea? Did he write anything different to make it four hands? He didn't write anything different. We sort of reorchestrated it around that idea. So we used the original material to get our own take on it. Yes, he was aware of it. We had to get approval. We had to do quite a lot of work on the idea and the sort of the pitch for it and what that meant, because obviously he's really passionate about the show and quite rightly is really specific about what those characters are and what their ability is. So he had approval on casting when we first started it, but obviously with that we had to say these people also have to be excellent classical pianists and vocalists and actors, so we were asking quite a lot. But yeah, he's quite, I think he's really happy with the production. He's seen the film of it. We're hoping that we're going to try and get him over to see it, touch wood. Yes. But obviously travel is difficult at the minute.
Because you say the show's been around a long time during that, it's become that kind of the thing of lockdown, this show, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was. Tell us about the film version, and how was that directed as far as you're concerned? Was it just a solid camera, or was it a multi-camera thing? Tell us about how that came to be, because that's interesting.
Yeah, so we were really keen to capture it. One, because we had to close twice at Southwark, and we wanted as many people to see it as possible. At that point, we didn't know that we were going to get the chance to go into the West End, so we were determined to capture it. So we did a 4-camera, multicam capture, where we had one camera that was roaming, and 3 fixed cameras that then sort of track the actors, and then I spent quite a lot of time editing it.
And was that new for you to kind of be behind the camera, or have you done that before?
I've done quite a lot of sort of trailers and EPKs and that sort of capture, and I was the associate on American in Paris at the Dominion, which had a Broadway HD capture as well for cinema. Obviously that was 8 film cameras, that was across a week, so that was a bit different. We did ours at Southwark in one take. We did it once and we captured it. So it was obviously very different and sort of challenging, but I sort of loved that challenge, and I think because we know the material so well, I was really clear on what we wanted to capture and make part of the storytelling, to keep it clear and keep it exciting, but also make it continue to be theatrical and a theatre experience, because it obviously isn't a film. There is a film of the show, which is a literal Hollywood film. This is not that. This is theatre still.
We put a question out on Twitter saying what things that have appeared during the pandemic would you like to see carry on, and mine was electronic tickets, because it just made so much sense. But someone said the filming of shows has become really important now for accessibility issues. Do you agree with that as someone who's worked in both film direction of a stage show and stage shows themselves?
Do you know what I do? I think it's a brilliant thing that's happened in the pandemic, because I've got several shows that have never had a version filmed. There's often an archive recording of it for our private use in terms of restaging and keeping a copy of it, but there's not actually records of production. So absolutely, I think it's really important that we do that. One, because it extends the audience reach, it gives more people the opportunity to see it, whether in London or around the country. I'm from Derbyshire, so I'm really passionate that theatre isn't necessarily always London centric. I think it's important that we extend beyond that and engage audiences all around the country, but also it makes our work accessible around the world, which is we wouldn't get the chance to have people in America see our production in the last 5 years. So I think it's a really, really happy accident.
The argument with that is that it discourages people from going to the theatre, but I think it's the opposite. Whereas if they watch a film of a stage show, they say, I want to see what this feels like in real life, because it's completely different.
Completely agree, and I think the National Theatre NT Live model is proof of that. And them showing...
They're closed at the moment.
Yes, exactly, yeah. We're meant to be there for a coffee, but we can't. I think with their one-man, two governors that went out, and forgive me, the statistics might be a bit wrong, but it was something along the lines of the amount of people that watched that on that YouTube link for the week would have filled the Littleton for 15 years or something like that.
So that's how James Corden had a career. Thank you for watching that, whoever did. But yeah,
do you know what I mean? I think it's it proves that actually you can't fill the Littleton at that level around the world. So I don't think it discourages people. I think actually it introduces more people to theatre who wouldn't necessarily have the immediate chance to see it, and then whets their appetite and excites them to come back and see more. So for people that think it's not great for theatre or detrimental to theatre, I think it's the opposite. Like you said, I think it's really, really exciting, and the more that technology develops with how we do that and how we live stream or capture for later, I think it can only get better.
We have to give special credit as well to Nika Burns and Katie Lipson. Katie's been a wonderful friend of the podcast for many, many years, and it's amazing to see that she's going from strength to strength. But tell us how important these two ladies have been for theatre during the pandemic.
Oh, incredibly important. I think I've worked with Katie for many years now, and we're a brilliant team, and she's so passionate about musicals and revivals and new musicals that I wouldn't be doing the projects I'm doing if we hadn't grown together and discovered new shows and exciting revivals together. And I think together with Nika, I think what Nika's doing is fantastic. Championing new work and emerging artists in a moment which could be quite dark for artists in the pandemic, where theatres could have been just closed. I think that mentality of we get those theatres open as soon as possible and as soon as is safe, but not necessarily with those long-running shows that are returning, but sort of giving a chance to people that are up and coming or developing ideas or still working on their own process. It's quite exciting.
And it's a shame it's the opposite, and I hate to say it, but with Lloyd Webber's Palace Theatre, how that was meant to be this kind of new home of musical theatre, and they're just selling it. I mean, it's a real shame.
Yes, I mean, obviously I don't know the ins and outs of that, so I'm not abreast with what the reason is for that.
It's great that there are these opportunities elsewhere for new writers.
And look, I think any theatre that's a commercial operation like the other Palace, I think it's probably quite a tricky balance to do new musicals all year round and make money and keep it going. Yeah. So yes, it is a shame that venue didn't quite land in what I imagine was their intention with new musicals, but that doesn't mean it won't in the future or somewhere else won't. But absolutely, I think it's imperative that there is somewhere that new work and emerging artists can practice.
And it seems to be the Garrick at the moment, because we've been talking about the Garrick. We had Chris Clegg on talking about Tuck Shop, and we've had now yourself, and the last 5 years. How has it gone from, I guess, restaging it from the Southwark to the Garrick? What's that been like?
Challenging.
Yeah.
I think mainly because it's a bigger space, and we've obviously gone from 3 sides, so we've gone from Thrust to End On, Pross Arch Theatre at the Garrick. So it does require a significant sort of second look at it and how we stage it. The fundamental revolve idea, the piano, the grand piano, and the actors and the way they use the space remains, but obviously it needs a little bit more work in terms of how the audience connect with it. There's also the challenge of the Garrick's on a rake, and the audience are a bit lower than the stage, and then the auditorium's rake, so there's things to think about in terms of how I want the audience to access it, because it's very different to the audience being on 3 sides in a really small theatre like Southwark. So yes, it's a work in progress, but we're going to discover quite a lot of that in the rehearsals in a few weeks with Ollie and Molly, and how we start to refine it.
Ollie and Molly, what a lovely... Tell me about your cast.
Ollie, Molly. Yes, we've got the amazing Molly Lynch, who's playing Kathy, and Ollie Higginson, who's playing Jamie. Again, I'm indebted to them both, because we ask a lot of them, and what they bring to the performance and the process and the rehearsals and the show has gone beyond my wildest dreams of what the show could be, and without them it would be a very different show, and I'm really lucky that they're there.
What is it about the show that just works for you? What did you really enjoy getting under the skin of when it came to looking at the show?
Do you know what? I think, and again, I'm sure this is obvious to people, but I think it's really well written. I think he's a brilliant composer, Jason Robert Brown, and
Challenging.
It's a challenge, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of material, and it's very detailed and complex material and intelligent material. But I think that's a testament to him, and actually the more we rehearsed and the more we sort of got beyond the layers of the top layers and we dug a bit deeper, it's really excellent, and everything is thought about. Every musical movement is thought about. There's an interpretation for all those moments that can be acted or can be played or can be focused on. So I think he writes a brilliant song. There are 14 amazing songs in there, and I think he plays with form. I think the form of it's really exciting. Her going backwards, him going forwards, and I think that's probably why people return to it, because it's open to interpretation. You can do it whatever way you want within the structure of the show. So I think it's quite exciting to new generations of artists that discover it and want to tell the story.
Has Jason Robert Brown ever said he was influenced by Merrily for this?
Not.
Do you know where the idea came from?
Do you know what? I don't know if it's Merrily. I think it was written as later on than Merrily. So I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if that was absolutely there. I know that his own sort of life and his own experience influenced it, and I think he had brilliant performers in that original off-Broadway company that I know worked with him.
Was it Hal Prince's daughter that directed, or am I getting that wrong?
I don't know.
Prince, I think.
It was absolutely yes, yeah.
And he directed Merrily, so I don't know if that had anything
maybe
to do with that. But anyway,
yeah.
What would you like to see happen to the show next? It's 5 weeks
at the Garrick.
Not 5 years, but 5.
No, we wish it was 5 years. I think I'm quite pragmatic and a realist. I'm just really thankful that we get to do it again, and it's been a really difficult 18 months.
Again and again.
Yeah, again and again. So I think we'd love maybe to do a tour, because it's not toured the UK. So I think then we can get more people seeing it around the country. Obviously, I'd love for it to continue or to come back or to develop. But I think I'm a realist. I think we always do what we're doing for now, and I try not to look too far into the future.
Ironically, to see what the musical's about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Not that you'll have pretty much time to be, because tell us what you're about to step into in September.
So in November. I start in November. I am taking over as the director of School of Musical Theatre at Arts Ed, which is a fantastic drama school in Chiswick, and obviously I'm passionate about musicals, and having been an actor, having trained as an actor at Central, one of my sort of sideline passions that I've been doing since I started directing is working in drama schools and directing second year projects and working with training actors and helping shape modern drama training, because I'm sort of really passionate about how we for that trolley to go past.
Ding ding.
So I'm sort of really passionate about how we train actors and what that means, because it's we're a long way from Stanislavski and Russian drama and that acting moment of what shaped modern current British thinking about acting. So I'm really interested in that. And musicals, I think often there's a stigma that MT actors aren't real actors, or they can't do, and I use in inverted commas, straight plays, whatever that actually means, is ridiculous.
See Gypsy and get back to me. That's
yeah,
fine.
Exactly. So I think there's a stigma that is shifting, and is sort of moving away from that in terms of how actors can do other things. Because I think actually it's quite difficult to act and sing. That's tough. And play the piano. I will say that's challenging as playing a Shakespeare role. So
especially when you're given the rhythms to perform the words, because you're not making many conscious choices.
Yes.
I sometimes always said the joke is written like that, so it lands like that, and you cannot really change what he's written or any other composer. So you are. The tools you're working with as an actor when you're singing quite I'm not an actor, certainly not a singer, but they're quite limited, I'm guessing, when it comes to the delivery of the line.
Yeah, I think the basis is the imagination, and the imagination fuels everything, whether you're speaking or moving or interpreting it through movement, dance or singing. So that's one thing we have in common as humans, is our ability to create and imagine. How we use that and how we interpret that is our individual ability. So absolutely, obviously, as a singer, you're using different parts of your voice and your body to do that. But that's quite fascinating.
And it's interesting because Art said for many years it was kind of seen as this, dare I say, this kind of factory that just produced singers and dancers, and the acting was kind of a bit on the side. But I've seen a couple of shows there. I think Legally Blonde was the last thing I saw there, and it's just, you might as well be in a West End theatre already. And Jack Yarrow was at Arts while he was still doing Joseph and Amazing Technicolor Doodah, and just. I saw someone the other week that had like the first 8 people in the ensemble from Arts Ed, so it's just it's a stalwart, isn't it now?
I think it is, yeah, and I think what Arts Ed do well is they train actors in all 3 disciplines, so they give as much weight to the acting department as they do to the singing and the dance department,
and the industry as well.
And the industry. So I think it's a really rigorous training where they strive for excellence in all 3 strands. Because you've got 50 students that have different abilities in different areas, but they want to make sure that all the excellent dancers become excellent vocalists and singers and actors, and vice versa. The ones that come in with stronger acting skills become excellent movers. So I think that's why that rigour and that attention to detail, particularly I think when they get into the third year and the material they're exposed to, there's those shows. I've just done The Wedding Singer for Arts Ed, which in the same year they did Ragtime, and the year before they did Wild Party. So that these are really intelligent shows that expand their imaginations and continue their training.
And also it's great they're doing those kind of shows because it really grounds whether the students are in them or not. They presume watch them, and so many different styles as well that school puts on. It's not all kind of, they do full productions. It's not just conceived things that the students might make up by themselves.
Yeah, I think there's lots of brilliant shows in the world, and absolutely, I think when I was at Central, we did Troilus and Cressida, because it's not easy, and you're probably not going to do that in your career, maybe. So I think it's given people excellent material that then extends their training and makes them work, makes them think in different ways, and then I think that sort of gives them a rounded training once they've been through their whole 3 years.
Well, I hope the last 5 years goes well. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for coming on Musical Talk. Hopefully have you on again soon. Tell us when last 5 years starts and what people can do to find information.
Yes, so we open at the Garrick Theatre in the West End on the 17th of September. And if you go to the website, nimaxtheatres.com or .co.uk, one of the tickets are available there, and we run until the 17th of October, and we would love to see you there. But thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's all right, John. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
Massive thanks to Jonathan Boyle there for talking to me, and do check out the last 5 years. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm sure you are as well. So we'll see you next week for another edition, that's a good word, of Musical Talk, where I think Thos will be carrying on with his Edinburgh Festival Fringe coverage. So see you then. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.